Hey everyone, it's that guy over there bringing you another audio log to cover the Tyranid Codex and its plethora of supplements. This is part 11 of the review so far, and we are on the final installment of the Rising Leviathan series, which is the Rising Leviathan 3. So we talked through the first one, which was like the Vanguard organisms, kind of the main battles were occurring in the um, second book, and then in the third book, this is kind of like the end game. So all of the formations in this supplement are, a lot of them honestly are comprised of carnifexes, and then they have pretty much all of them rely on monstrous creatures to work, and then they have kind of a formation of formations in the back. It's not quite like the Decurion where it's usable in normal games of 40k. It's actually something you'd probably have to save for Apocalypse, but it's still there, so we'll talk over it. It's always good to have options. So, regardless, let me pull this back out here. So first up, we've got the Bioblast node. Bioblast node coming in at 680 points base, so pretty substantial. But what it is it's one Tyranid warrior brood, 3 Carnifex broods, and 1 Tyrannifex. So already, the way you should probably be looking at this is if you want to go like monstrous creature heavy, and you want to have, if you're looking for more heavy support slots, this is probably the easiest way to do it, because you have to buy a troop, and then you get 4 heavy support choices. You don't have to buy headquarters, so some point savings there. But you're stuck with 3 Carnifex broods and a Tyrannifex, which can be from 1 to 3 Carnifexes on each one. So you could potentially take 9 Carnifexes and a Tyrannifex, but that might be a little excessive. Alright, so the formation restrictions is that the warrior brood in this formation must include a model that has taken an item from the basic biocannons list, so basically the Barb Strangler or the Venom Cannon. Carnifex models in this formation must take at least one option from the monstrous biocannons list, which is the Twin Link Deathspitter, Twin Link Devourer with Brain Leech Worms, Strength Form Cannon, Heavy Venom Cannon. So it's kind of like this is the shooting version. There's going to be a close combat version next, but their special rule is Bio Deluge, which means all units in this formation have the split fire special rule. In addition, models to this formation that are within 12 inches of the formation's Tyranid warrior brood can reroll failed to wound rolls of 1 in the shooting phase. So it sounds really great, but Carnifexes only have leadership 7, so unless you put a Tyranid Prime in there with them, well, actually you can't attach to monstrous creatures anymore. So anyway, yeah, you're on a leadership 7. It's nice to have that rule, but you'll fail it just as much as you pass it. Yeah, so I guess the idea here being that the reroll to 1s for wounding is really nice, but normally, because most of the guns you're looking at here are going to be strength 6, it's not a huge benefit. Again, the benefit here is you get 4 heavy supports for the price of a Tyranid warrior brood. So 100 points, that's what it is base for the warriors, and then you get 4 heavy supports. Carnifex, and you can also take a Tyrannocytes, which are the drop pods, give 1 to each of these guys and drop them in. And that might actually be the best way to go. And then the warrior brood can hang out in the back. So at that point, you wouldn't even be using the Bio Deluge rule, but I think that's okay. And that could be pretty effective, if you're just trying to throw in some more heavy support choices, or if you've got, like, let's say you have 6 Carnifexes, you could take 1 in each of your heavy support slots from your CAD and then add this formation in, and now you've got 6 solos as opposed to 3 pairs, which is better. Or you could take 3 pairs as just part of this formation and give split fire to each of them. So pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm not sure I've ever seen that one get played, but there's probably uses for it. The record node is 1 Tyranid warrior brood and 3 Carnifex broods. Again, you can see this is the close combat version. basically the restrictions are, instead of having to take items from the Biocannon list, the Warrior Brood cannot take items from the basic Biocannon list, which is fine because it was only 2 guns. But the Carnifex cannot take options from the Monstrous Biocannons list, which do include the Twin Link Devourer with Brainleech Worms, which is what you'd want to upgrade them with. So this point cost comes out to be, record node is 450 points. So this one is cheaper, mostly because you don't have to take a Tyrannifex. That's where your point savings comes in. But their special rule is Rampage of Destruction, which means the Carnifexes in this formation inflict D3 plus 1 Hammer of Wrath hits instead of the normal D3. In addition, if they're within 12 inches of the Tyranid Warrior Brood, they can reroll failed to wound rolls of 1 in the assault phase. So again, you're strength 9, you're not going to roll 1s very often, but then you get a chance to reroll them. It's okay. It's not... I mean, it's nice to have, but again, I think you're really... The value of this formation comes from your force organization slot manipulation, and you don't have to pay as many points to get more Carnifex Broods if you're going that direction. You don't see a lot of people taking close combat Carnifexes, and this is probably why. Because it's just not as effective as like a shooting Carnifex is just a cheaper version of a flying Hive Tyrant that has the Twin Link Strength 6 guns. Obviously, it can't fly, but you get some point savings. But you could find a use for these. I have 12 Carnifexes, so it's nice to be able to maybe even fit all those in a CAD or in a regular game. Tyrant Node. It's the next one. The Tyrant Node comes in at 360 points, and it's a Hive Tyrant, 1 Tyrant Guard Brood, and 1 Venom Throat Brood. And the formation restrictions is that the unit of Tyrant Guard must include 3 models. The Hive Tyrant cannot be equipped with wings. And the special rule is that the Hive Tyrant, it's a command node, so the Hive Tyrant gets 6 inches to its synapse range. So I think the only because again you're not trying to. The reason why you'd want more HQ slots is so you can have more flying Hive Tyrants, but this does not allow you to do that. However, I noticed that the components of this, when in 5th edition, I used to run a Swarm Lord with 3 guard and a Venom Throat Brood around him to give him a cover save, and then he'd walk across the table that way. So if you were looking for, because you can't take the Swarm Lord as part of this, but if you're looking to maybe have like a customized Swarm Lord, like your own special Hive Tyrant that you had your own story for and everything, this might work, because with command node you get 6 inches, so it's kind of like having the synaptic linchpin rule that the Swarm Lord has, and then you can kind of customize them. I have experimented with making a better Swarm Lord, but for cheaper. And honestly, once you get to the point where you're like, this is decidedly better than a Swarm Lord, you've passed the Swarm Lord's cost. So I'm not sure its use, but it could be cool for a fun game, or like maybe if you were having like a narrative game where your Swarm Lord had developed over time, this would be a really good way to include him, because the command node rule is really the only benefit of this formation. So, which you have a lot of ways to get around that, though. You don't have to take this formation to get plus 6 inches. You could roll the Synaptic Linchpin. You could just take the Swarm Lord and he automatically gets it. Or you could do the Norn Crown, or you could stand next to a Sporocyst, which we need to review those guys for sure, because I really like them. I think there's probably another way that I'm just not thinking of. Oh, you can just cast your power, your Dominion power. So those are your options. The next one is the Subterranean Swarm. The Subterranean Swarm is 830 points. This one's actually the most expensive one, surprisingly. But you get a Trigon Prime, a Trigon, a Mawlok, and 3 Ravener Broods. So it's kind of like a Battle Force formation. You get all the snake-looking guys. There's no restrictions, so they can take any kind of upgrades you want, and the formation special rule is that they came from below. They came from below means all units in this formation must be placed in reserve. Make a single reserve roll for the entire formation. When the formation arrives from reserve, deploy the Trigon Prime first, using the subterranean assault special rule. Once the Trigon Prime's final location has been established, the formation's 3 Ravener broods immediately enter play. Place the Ravener units so that all their models are wholly within 6 inches of the Trigon Prime's base and a unit coherency. These models cannot be placed within 1 inch of enemy models or within impassable terrain. If any models cannot be placed, these excess models are removed as casualties. The formation's Ravener broods cannot move in the movement phase or charge the turn they arrive, but they can shoot or run. And then the formations Trigon and Moloch interplay via deep strike as usual. So I feel like they really wrote this long set of rules like for really no apparent reason. So the Trigon Prime comes in, and then you get the Raveners, but you kind of are, if you add more Raveners to the broods, you're getting in danger of not being able to place them because they have to be within 6 inches of the base. So they don't have to scatter, which is nice when they deep strike in, but you are like just right next to everybody. And if you deep strike too close to an enemy unit and then you scatter into them, the Trigon Prime will be fine, but then the Raveners might not necessarily be okay because they might not all fit now within 6 inches. 6 inches is a long way, but like if you took 18 Raveners, that would be too many. So I guess just keep that in mind. Or like if you deep strike and you somehow end up between a bunch of units, it might be hard for you to place everybody. Like if the Trigon Prime just barely fits, then now the Raveners are destroyed. And then it's not even like, it would be one thing if they didn't scatter at all, and that would be a cool rule. Or if you could take 3 Molochs that didn't scatter or something, but I feel like this formation kind of misses out. So this is probably one of the few formations I would say just do not take it, because you really don't get any kind of benefit from it. And literally the only benefit is that they all come on at once, or stay off at once if you fail your roll. And then the Raveners are really limited about where they can be deployed. So yeah, which is a shame. So I have 5 of the big snake, like Trigon version equivalents, because I play them as Moloch sometimes. And then I have 18 Ravener broods, and I would not take this because it's just, you want Moloch, so Molochs are probably the ones you want in this edition, whereas before I always played with 3. But regardless, Subterranean Swarm, much too expensive for what it does. All right, and the final one is Livingtide. So Livingtide, we're going to talk about another tide formation in the other book, the last book we have. The Livingtide is the most expensive formation that is available to Tyranids. I'm not sure about other books, but this is kind of a lot of points. 3,090 points base, and I'm sure that's without guns and everything. But what it is, so it might actually be the most expensive formation, like non-apocalypse formation in the game. So you're probably not going to play this, and then once you get to Apocalypse, there's probably a lot more fun Apocalypse formations that you would play. But it's 1 Tyrant node, which was the special, personalized Hive Tyrant formation. 1 Synaptic Swarm. The Synaptic Swarm was which one was that one? Oh, it was the Warrior formation. So you've got 3 Warrior broods and a Prime. So that's what you're looking at then. 3 Endless Swarms. So you've got 9 Warriors there, or 3 units of 3, unless you want to put more in. And then 9 units of 10 Termagants and 9 units of 10 Hormagaunts. They come back on a 4+. The Wrecker node was the Close Combat Carnifex formation, and then 1 Skyblight Swarm, which was the good one, the Flyer formation with Gargoyles and 2 Harpies, a Hive Crone, and a Flyrant. And that's it. So a lot. 3,090 points base unupgraded. Like you could probably fit this in a 4,000 point game and nothing else if you wanted everything upgraded appropriately. But just think about that, 4,000 points, and that's what you got. The units in this formation must adhere to all, so this is a restriction, to all restrictions detailed in each of the corresponding formation data sheets. The units in this formation retain all the special rules in their corresponding data sheets. In addition, the following special rules apply. Fear, so every model has fear. The Swarm Unleashed, which, as long as the Hive Tyrant from the Tyrant node formation has not been removed as a casualty, you can reroll failed results when rolling to see if Termagant, Hormagant, or Gargoyle broods from this formation have been completely destroyed. That has been completely destroyed is replaced. So you know, on a 4+ stuff would come back. You can reroll that if the Tyrant's still alive. And then the Synaptic Command Network. As long as the Hive Tyrant from the Tyrant node has not been removed as a casualty, then all other Synapse creatures from this formation that are within its Synapse range add 6 inches to their own Synapse range. So if you're within 18 inches of the Tyrant, then you get plus 6 inches. So, and remember, the Synaptic Swarm, they get plus 6 inches, I believe, and which again is such a failure of the rule rights. So, for instance, the Biodeluge rule, it doesn't say if you're within Synapse range of the Tyranid warriors, you can reroll once to wound. It says if you're within 12 inches of a warrior. So it doesn't even that would be, I think it's just an oversight, but that would be kind of cool if you're like, well, now my ranges are bigger, so now you can reroll ones and be farther away, and it's just not the case because they didn't write that into the rules. So honestly, I think once you get to 4,000 points, you would be building your list differently. Could be wrong. Once you start playing Apocalypse, you can kind of do what you want. So, but if you were going to play an Endless Swarm, and all these other ones, like the Skyblight Swarm isn't bad, or it's actually really, really good. The 3 Endless Swarms aren't terrible. They're actually, especially in a big game like that, you'd have pretty decent board control. I mean, it's 180 units or little models running around. They come back on a 4+ rerollable, so that's not terrible. The Wrecker node, I would have rather been the Biodeluge roll or whatever, the Bioblast node, or the Living Artillery node. And then the Synaptic Swarm is warriors, and then the Tyrant node, again, that's kind of a narrative thing. So, but because they won't allow you to take the Trigon Primes in this, or Trigons, you really need that. Like if I had to rewrite this rule, or this one, I would say, honestly, I'd let players just pick what they wanted to take. And then they got Fear, Swarm Unleashed, and Synaptic Command Network. It wouldn't be tied to these 7 formations. You could pick 1 to 3 of any formations you like, and then everybody would just spam Skyblight Swarms, and I would break the game, and then everybody would be mad because I had changed this formation. But okay, so I guess there's just some pretty significant problems with this formation. You'll probably never see it be played. And honestly, I applaud you if you have all these models. So, because it's a lot. But anyway, that's the last formation from these. So I can put my iPad away because they're all digital, and pull out the Leviathan supplement book, and we'll review that one. So anyway, thanks for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.